You water your vegetables every day because you love them. You thought you were doing the right thing. And every extension service in the country, from Penn State to Utah State to Maryland, would tell you that you are slowly killing your plants. Not because you are watering too much in total, because you are watering too often. Daily light watering, the same routine printed on the back of every seed packet for the last 50 years, builds a shallow, fragile root system that collapses the moment a heat wave hits. And the science on this has been settled for almost 100 years, yet somehow almost nobody knows it. So today, I want to show you what is actually happening underground when you water the way you have been watering. I will explain the genes that control how roots find water, why a tomato plant can have roots 4 feet deep, while yours probably has roots 2 inches deep, and the surprisingly recent reason the daily watering habit even exists in the first place. Come closer. This one is going to change how you garden. Look at this number. In 1996, 2 researchers at Kansas State University, Chien and Fry, grew zoysia grass in tall soil columns and watered it 2 different ways. One group received daily light watering. The other group received deep soakings only when the leaves started to roll. Then they pulled the columns apart and measured where the roots actually were. The daily watered grass had almost no roots below the top few inches. The deep watered grass had healthy roots at 55 centimeters and 75 centimeters. That is roughly 22 inches and 30 inches deep. Same plant, same soil, same total water, completely different root systems. 40 days into a dry down, the deep watered plants were holding 13% more water in their leaves than the daily watered ones. They had literally trained themselves to survive a drought. Now hold that image in your head because it gets even more dramatic. There is a book from 1927 called Root Development of Vegetable Crops by John Weaver, where researchers spent years carefully digging up vegetable plants and tracing every root by hand. A John Bear tomato in deep, undisturbed soil reached 49 inches deep. Sweet corn went 5 feet down and 3 feet wide on every side. A single carrot reached 6 feet and a beet reached 9 feet. Your vegetables can do that. They are genetically capable of it. The reason yours probably do not is because of how you water them. So how does a root know where to grow? For a long time, scientists thought roots just followed gravity. They drop down, they hit something, and they branch. End of story. But starting in the early 2000s, a series of papers, the most important by Kobayashi and his team in 2007, identified a specific gene called Ms1 that controls hydrotropism. Hydrotropism is the ability of a root to sense moisture and grow toward it. This is separate from gravity sensing. Roots have 2 compasses, not one. One compass points down. The other compass points wherever the water is. In 2025, a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences showed that when those 2 signals disagree, the water signal wins. The root will literally bend sideways to follow moisture, even against gravity. Then there is zero branching, identified by Bao and his colleagues in 2014. Lateral roots, the little side branches that do most of the actual water absorption, stop branching in air gaps. They proliferate rapidly the moment they regain contact with wet soil. Stack those 2 mechanisms together, and you get the answer to why daily watering trains shallow roots. When you wet only the top 2 inches every day, the top 2 inches is the only place with water. The roots follow the water signal upward. The lateral branches only proliferate in that thin, wet layer. And every other day, you reinforce the message. Stay shallow. The water is up here. You have been training your plants to depend on you. And the cost of that shallow root system is severe. A 1996 study by Caro on tall fescue showed that plants with most of their roots in the top 3 to 10 centimeters had the worst leaf damage during drought. Plants with roots reaching 20 to 60 centimeters barely wilted at all. The shallow roots also get cooked. Soil 2 inches down can swing 30 or 40 degrees in a single afternoon, while soil 12 inches down barely moves. And constantly wet, shallow soil has another problem most gardeners never think about. When pores fill with water, oxygen cannot diffuse through them. Roots respire. They need oxygen just like you do. The University of Nevada, Reno Extension is blunt about it. Applying water too frequently limits root access to oxygen. This is why a plant that is overwatered looks exactly like a plant that is underwatered. The leaves wilt. The University of Maryland Extension and the University of Georgia Extension have both written that this is the most counterintuitive symptom in the entire garden. The plant is drowning, not thirsty, but the leaves droop the same way. The diagnostic giveaway, according to UC Integrated Pest Management, is whether the plant recovers when you water it. A truly dry plant perks up. A drowned plant just stays sad. The mechanism is brutal. A team led by Sasidaran published a paper in Plant Physiology showing that when soil is saturated, ethylene gas builds up to physiologically saturating concentrations inside the roots within about 1 hour. Membranes break down. The roots lose the ability to transport water, so the plant wilts even though it is sitting in mud. So what does deep, infrequent watering actually look like in practice? Almost every American Extension service agrees on the same target for established vegetables. 1 to 2 inches of water per week applied in 1 or 2 deep soakings, rather than 7 shallow ones. That depth wets the soil down somewhere between 6 and 12 inches, depending on whether you have sand, loam, or clay. Sand drains fast and drinks deep. Clay holds water tightly and spreads it sideways. Loam, the soil most home gardeners actually have, is somewhere in between. Here's the number that surprised me when I first ran it. A peer-reviewed fact sheet from Utah State University, published in 2023, gives the exact runtime math for drip tape. A 100-foot row of half-gallon per hour emitters spaced 12 inches apart needs 74 minutes of runtime to deliver only half an inch of water. 74 minutes for half an inch. Once. So the typical home gardener who runs their drip system for 15 minutes a day is delivering less than 1/5 of the weekly target, soaking only the top inch or two, training shallow roots, and concentrating salts at the wetting front edge where those shallow roots are clustered. Every single day. If you want to actually measure what your sprinkler or hose is delivering, the trick is dirt cheap. Set out 3 to 6 tuna cans across your garden. Run the water for a known amount of time. Average the depth in the cans. A standard tuna can is almost exactly 1 inch deep, so when it fills, you have applied 1 inch. Purdue and Illinois Extension have been recommending this for decades. It also reveals something most people never realize, which is that sprinklers do not water evenly. Some spots in your garden are getting double what others are. If you are finding this useful, hit subscribe. I dig into the biology behind everyday gardening every week, and there is a lot more underground science where this came from. Now, before anyone in the comments tears me apart, there are real exceptions to the deep and infrequent rule, and you need to know them. Lettuce, spinach, and celery have shallow root systems and huge leaves relative to their roots. The University of Minnesota Extension explicitly warns that letting lettuce dry out and then resuming watering causes a calcium transport problem called tip burn, where the leaf edges go brown. Spinach bolts the second it gets stressed. Celery turns stringy and bitter the moment the soil runs dry. These crops want consistent moisture, not deep cycles. Seedlings and freshly transplanted plants are also exempt. A germinating seed sits in the top half-inch of soil, and if that half-inch dries out, the seedling dies. Purdue Extension recommends watering germinating seeds 2 to 4 times a day in dry weather. You graduate to deep, infrequent watering only after the plant is established, which usually means 1 to 2 weeks after transplant. Containers in heat, especially in places like Tucson or Phoenix, often need watering twice a day in summer. The University of Arizona Cooperative Extension is clear about this. A small pot has very little soil mass, and the surface area to volume ratio is brutal. Container plants are not gardens. They are life support systems. And sandy soils need more frequent, smaller events than clay does, because the water just punches through. But for the vast majority of home gardeners, growing tomatoes and peppers and squash and beans in raised beds or in ground rows, the rule is 1 to 2 inches per week, applied as 1 or 2 deep soakings between 4 and 10 in the morning so the leaves can dry before nightfall. Now I want to answer the question I had when I first dug into this. How on earth did the daily watering habit become so universal in the first place? The honest answer is that it is a pretty recent accident. Pressurized municipal water and the rubber hose only became widely available in the middle of the 1800s. The Hawes watering can was patented in 1886. Before that, watering by hand from a well was so much work that nobody did it daily. They could not. The Rainbird Impact Sprinkler was patented in December of 1933 by a citrus grower in Glendora, California, named Orton Engelhart. Pop-up impact sprinklers came in 1941. Hunter Industries launched their rotor system in 1983. And Scott started a magazine called Lawn Care in 1928 that reached millions of subscribers after the Second World War, hammering home the idea that a green lawn meant daily attention. According to the EPA WaterSense program, more than 28 million American homes now have in-ground irrigation systems, typically running on clock-based controllers, set during peak summer and rarely adjusted as the season changes. The habit got encoded into hardware. The hardware got encoded into routines. The routines got passed down to the vegetable garden, which never asked for any of it. And the EPA estimates that a poorly maintained automatic system can waste up to 25,000 gallons per household per year. That is roughly what the average family uses for showers in an entire year. Gone, pooling on the patio, running off into the storm drain, soaking the top half-inch of soil while the roots 2 feet down sit dry. Meanwhile, 2,000 miles away, on the California Central Coast, farmers are dry farming tomatoes the way Italian and Spanish growers have for centuries. A 2024 study in the journal Elementa documented the practice in detail. The farmers irrigate exactly once at transplant to settle the seedling into the bed. Then they pull the drip lines out, and the plants get nothing else for the rest of the growing season. No daily watering, no weekly watering, no watering at all. The plants survive because their roots have been forced down by hydrotropism, by zero branching, by every mechanism we just talked about, into deep moisture reserves that most home gardeners never even realize exist in their soil. And the tomatoes that come out of those fields are famous in the local food scene for tasting more concentrated and more flavorful than irrigated ones, because the plant was never diluted with daily water. You do not need to dry farm. I am not asking you to dry farm. But the lesson is that vegetables are far, far more capable than the daily watering habit gives them credit for. So here is what I want you to do this week. Skip your usual short watering session. Instead, pick one morning, set out a few tuna cans across your beds, and run your water until those cans show 1 inch. Then walk away for 5 days. Push your finger 2 inches into the soil before the next watering. If it is dry that far down, water deep again. If it is still moist, wait another day. Your plants will not die. They will dig. And once you see them do it, you will never go back.